Next speaker, somebody I've known my whole life. He's a trailblazing entrepreneur, celebrated author, and financial strategist whose journey from humble beginnings to national recognition is a testament to the power of vision, resilience, and excellence. Recognized with the prestigious Small Business Administration Entrepreneur of the Year award, Linsey Mills' story is one of breaking barriers and elevating others along the way. The published author of Currency Conversations, the talk you've been waiting for about money, your business venture, the prep, the pitch, the funding, and teach your child about money through play. Ladies and gentlemen, Linsey Mills.
Glad to see you all here today. And that theme song, 2 Chainz, We Own It. It came from a conversation I had with I think she was probably 10 years old. About 2012, 2013, we were doing our stock market trading game, and we had our themes, our songs that we have, and I have my list of songs. You know, y'all know the Money, Money, Money by, the OJs, and I was bringing that in. I had my old school songs. So a little girl came up, and she says, "You have 2 Chainz?" I was like, 2 Chainz? What's a 2 Chainz? I'm not familiar with that. But now, from that conversations about money, from that little girl, that became my theme song for tonight when I thought about what could I bring out. And in that song, they talk a little bit about owning it. We Own It is the name of it. But one of the things that he says is, I don't fear death or dying. I only fear not trying. Think about that in your life. We know death is coming. We can't get out of life alive is what I heard from Les Brown. Can't get out of life alive. But you have that fear of trying. That's very important that you don't have that fear of trying. Now, some of y'all were focused on not the song. You weren't focused on what I was getting ready to say. You were looking at what I have in my hand here. This is a bag of cash, $10,000. And people would say, what in the world would you have $10,000 of shredded cash that I can't do anything with? Well, what this means is throughout our lives, we've had conversations. We've had 10,000 conversations through our lives with people who were the wrong financial advisors in most cases. And those 10,000 conversations that you had, a lot of times they resulted in shredded dreams, shredded opportunities. You not trying because of the risk that you were afraid to take. So what we're going to talk a little bit about today is we're going to talk about cash. And it is an acronym that we'll go through, but I want you to remember what we're talking about. Just remember the 4 letters, cash, C-A-S-H. And the first thing we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about those conversations. I wrote a book in 2023. It was about those currencies of conversation. And when we think about currency and currents, we think about flow of water, flow of blood through our circulation system in our bodies. If the blood stops flowing in your body, what happens? That's it, you die. If the flow of water in the river stops and you have something like the Dead Sea, what happens? It becomes dead and it's really salty. Well, that's the same thing what happens with cash flow. If your money is not flowing, that's why they call it currency. It has to flow throughout the economy. And we learned that in 2019-20 when COVID happened. Money stopped flowing because people couldn't get out. They couldn't spend. So what did the government do? And they always talk about the government doesn't want to give money, those kind of things. What did they do when the money stopped flowing and the economy came to a halt? They were sending you checks. And what did they know you were going to do with that money? They were going to spend it, right? Most of us are going to spend it. So that cash flow makes our economy go. However, you have to understand about that money when you get it in that currency. What are you going to do with it? And those conversations that you've had throughout your life, those are going to play a big part of what you do with that money. Now, when I was growing up, I grew up in Jacksonville, North Carolina, you all. Some of my family is here from Jacksonville. Got them in the house. So thank you all for coming. So I looked at Jacksonville, military town, and we had our opportunities, and we were really going after it. But I looked at the county. Does anybody know what county Jacksonville is in? Onslow. So, as I'm looking at words and thinking about words and how that plays a part in our lives, I looked at it one day and I said, you know what? I grew up in a county that said on slow. I never realized that, but I was always on the move. I never realized that the county that I grew up in, if you broke it apart, it said on slow. So we said it all as Onslow. I'm glad I never thought about that too deeply when I was growing up, because I didn't want to be on. I don't want to be on slow for sure. So we were going through, and what we're talking about today is talking about the cash flow. In this conversation we're going to have about money today, we want to take this opportunity, and at the end of this conversation, we're going to transform some of this confetti, shredded money, shredded dreams. We're going to transform those and show you all how you can move it into something that's tangible and valuable for yourselves. So here's what we do. We go through life in the A portion where we talk about accumulation. Now, we can accumulate assets or we can accumulate debt. The speaker before me, a while ago, talked about that debt. And a lot of times what we do is we're so interested in showing what we have to the world that we accumulate the debt in order to show that conspicuously. But what we have to do is you can take those same dollars and give them a purpose, and you can accumulate assets. And so I'm in the business now of helping people accumulate assets. And those assets could be in the form of real estate. It could be in the form of stocks. Could be in the form of intellectual property. And it could be in the form of communications. Reed Shannon, very proud of that young man. I've known him since he was carrying around his lunchbox as his briefcase to meetings with his parents. And that's how I knew that young man was going places. And a lot of that was the conversations he had and experienced from his parents, and the conversations he had going to those meetings, and the conversations he's been about. And then what he did one day, I was in the living room when he came out and he started singing. And he was going to be auditioning for the Michael Jackson review. And I looked at that young man and I said, that young man is going places because he is taking his communication, his assets, and he is transforming that into what we call some currency and intellectual property. And if you look on Netflix and other channels now, that young man has turned that conversation, that communication, and those things that he learned from his parents into assets, valuable assets. So what I ask you today is look at what you have, your assets, your things that you can turn into intellectual property or that you can buy into, maybe be real estate. I wrote a book called Currency of Conversations in 2023, but I wrote a book before that called Your Business Venture. Now, it was a bestseller, but it wasn't a New York Times bestseller. It didn't put me on, all the flying around the world. But in that book, I talked about 12 industries that could be disrupted. And one of those, or two of those, were money. We talked about digital money back then. And when I wrote that book, it was 2020, it was because I went to a conference in 2018 about digital money, and it was a Bitcoin conference. Most people hadn't even heard of it back then. So some of my clients told me, have you heard about the Bitcoin? I said, I haven't, but I'm going down to the conference and paid $500. I learned about Bitcoin. I put $500 in. I said, if I lose this money, that's been my lesson. Well, you all know what Bitcoin has done since 2017. So $99,000 a coin that it has become. And what we want to do is we want to learn what is out there and how we can accumulate those assets. Now, I didn't go all in because I'm a financial planner, and so I was a little bit at a time. So I eased my way in, but that was an opportunity for me to invest. So that was something that I did, and I built it into a security, and I built it into strategy. So what I talk about with money is not so much how to just accumulate it for just accumulating sake, but it's how can we go from survival with our money to strategy with our money and where to put it, but how do you do it for significance? I'm a part of a giving circle and a giving community investment network, and a giving circle called Next Generation of African American Philanthropists. Well, my good buddies Ethan and Linsey back there from Davidson College introduced me to this concept of collective giving from a group standpoint. My grandmother introduced me to individual philanthropy, and she did hand-to-hand philanthropy. And what that means is she would do like that. Don't tell nobody. And that's how she would move that philanthropy around. She didn't have a lot, but that was her philanthropy, and I learned from that. Now, what we have developed, my wife who's sitting here, Michelle Serrano, and I, she's been with me quite a long time here, over 30 years since Davidson College, that we came together. And out of all the people I was getting to try to help me teach some kids African American and history and African history, I went to all my boys, they ignored me. And what we were trying to do is get $1,500 to invest in the community, the kids, what we call across the tracks, but those are my people. So she actually came to me and said, I will do it. So she got $1,500, I got $1,500, and we went and brought kids from across the tracks onto Davidson's campus, and we taught them African and African American history because we thought we could invest in those kids and what they're doing. So that was another thing, just going from survival to strategy to significance. And the last thing I'll talk about is H. What you need to do, and what I've done over the years, is develop some habits. These are simple habits. And habits are easy to do, and they're easy what? Not to do. So if you're looking to invest some monies or grow your portfolio or go from, just having the emergency fund, just start putting some monies away. Those little habits, a penny, $1 here, $1 there. Just start putting those monies away and develop those habits for yourself. And in 5, 10, 15 years, you will see some differences in your life and your lifestyle. And develop a holistic approach. The conversations I've had with my clients over the years have been holistic. They start with the word. They don't start with numbers. It starts with the word. I'm not a professional in the Bible, but I did see one place in John 1:1 it said, in the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. Well, financial planning also starts with the Word. And that's how those currencies of conversation come about. So we've been talking for a little bit here, and my time has run out. And what we're trying to do is take this confetti of money, and we're trying to turn it into some real dollars through our organized conversations. And that's what it's all about. How can we organize our conversations around money and create generational wealth? It's about the word, and the numbers come next. Thank you all very much.